decision makers who not just shape the backbone of our community, but really build a ecosystem that we call home. And I'm excited today because I'm joined by several interesting guests. But before I dive into that, this is actually Small Business Month. And I just want to share that there are several number of great events happening across Miami-Dade, including Miami-Dade Small Business. What is this? This is what happens when you get old. Miami-Dade Small Business, SBDC. I never remember the last part of the name. SBDC Small Business Week, which is May 5th through 7th. And the Small Business Resource Expo, which is on May 21st. And also in North Miami Beach, there's a Small Business Summit and Expo on May 8th. There's several events all over the county, actually, around procurement, networking, and opportunities and products. So if you're a small business owner, this is a time to tap in and get connected and explore what's out there. So for today's conversation, I think it's a real powerful one because we're talking about impact in education and what it really takes to build opportunity at scale. Is it fair to say? Because the way you guys are growing, and you said you're the second largest
arts education nonprofit in the United States, focused here in Miami.
That's amazing. So, as you heard one of our first guests, we're joined today by Sammy Gonzalez-Zera, founder and CEO of Young Musicians Unite, and Zach Larmer, COO of Young Musicians Unite, and a 3-time Grammy Award winner. Is that okay if I say that? No?
Go Zach.
Okay. Together, they're building something much bigger than just music. They're building pathways and confidence and a long-term connections to opportunity for, I guess, one of the most important segments of our community, children. So thank you both for bringing on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
So music is the thing that reunites everything that you guys are doing right now. And I'd be curious I'll start with you. What connected you to music? What is it about music that really just made you dive in and say, I want to do something here?
Music changed my life. When I was a child, I saw other students play music, and I wanted to do that. And I was lucky enough to have the most amazing music teachers in Miami Beach. And from North Beach to Nautilus to Beach High, teachers that were there for 30 plus years. Mm-hmm. And they were able to take me under their wing and play music, which it wasn't just a music class. It was an opportunity to develop courage and confidence. I was a very, very shy kid, but I wanted to be on stage, right? And music allowed me to do that. So the extrovert, introvert, as we were talking about earlier. And it allowed me to get full rides to college and to travel the world and to do a lot of really great things in my life. So I'm very thankful to my music teachers, and I'm thankful for music. Wow,
that is interesting because myself too. I've had the opportunity, in a couple previous lives, I played a couple different instruments. I play piano and trumpet, and I can definitely identify where it really gives you. It's not really. It gives you a platform to stand on and to really give you an opportunity to show a side of yourself that on your own you probably wouldn't do. So I can totally identify with that. What for you?
I also think whenever you have a discipline that you can dedicate yourself to, it becomes a vehicle for developing your human potential. I know that for me as a person, I found music very young, maybe 5 years old or so. I started playing the drums. And I played the drums all through elementary school and middle school. And in high school, I found the guitar. And however in love with music I already was, it was 10x when I found the guitar. I wanted to dedicate every waking moment of the rest of my life to getting better at that instrument. And so when you pursue something with that kind of fervor or intensity, and you develop the discipline that's required, you learn how to sit alone, just by yourself in your room for hours a day, giving a real analysis to what you're doing well and what you're not doing well, being honest with yourself about that self-evaluation. All of those things are skills that transfer forward in life to everything you do. And so I think for me, music was not just something that I enjoyed, but it was something that opened all of the rest of the doors in my life and gave me all of the skills or the relationships that I would need or use and develop as my life continued.
Yeah, and then everything you're saying there, like, I think sticking with 10X, even more important in this day and age where everything is so digital. And like you read different reports about the impact of what screens have on kids, young father. It especially in the first 7 years of life, the focus on screens really just exponentially changes your child's ability to focus and to think. And what you guys are encouraging children to do really just allows them to. It will allow them to leapfrog further than many others, but I think that you need an avenue to allow children and others to focus on that is more engaging than just a digital device of some kind. So I totally hear what you're saying, and I think it's amazing that you found that. You found it on your own, like you discovered music on your own?
I had a teacher.
You had a teacher as well.
So, yeah, it was through the school system that I discovered music. It was through the school system that Sammy discovered music. But what we've both seen is through a wide variety of factors, those same schools don't offer those programs.
Yeah.
Those same types of schools all across Miami, even all across the nation, have seen huge cuts to arts programs, music programs. And so if I imagine myself growing up today, there's a much greater chance that I never would have been exposed to that in the first place.
Yeah.
And I honestly, it's so far removed, I don't know what my life would have been like without those moments, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, and that's a good segue. My next question is really going to be like, what inspired you to create YMU?
When I was in high school, I had a music teacher, and his name was Doug Burris, and he had MS, and he was in a wheelchair. Yeah, he taught rock and roll and classical guitar to hundreds of kids every single day. And you look back at it, and you just, I wish I paid a little closer attention, right? Because I would never have thought that I would be in the education field. You know, I wanted to be a rock star when I was in high school. Right?
Yeah.
I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to perform. But this man gave every waking hour to the craft of teaching and education and being there for children and caring. And I would spend every day with him after school until 5, 6 p.m., you know, doing music with him, performing all over the city with him, traveling and going to different states to compete with him. And that meant a lot to me. So as I got older, and I was 27 years old, I was in that quarter life crisis where you want to like figure out what's going on. And just...
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think it is a thing. You know, when I talk to a lot of people, they get to like 25, 27, and they start telling me their woes and their problems and their ambition. I'm like, yeah, quarter life crisis, all good. Like, this is the time to make a change. So at 27, I went back to school for music for college and opened a recording studio. But something that was really cool is I was teaching for many years as I was touring. And Virginia Carr, one of the parents, came to me and said, hey, I'm going to put a rock band together. Just do that thing that you did on tour, but do it here locally in Miami, right? And I was lucky that some of the kids in there was Jeffrey Miller's son, Anthony Miller, and a few other really just awesome students, and started teaching them rock and roll. And after a year, we raised $10,000. And they wanted to donate it to cancer. And I said, you know, cancer is important. But what about free music education for kids? Like, what about kids that don't have the opportunity? Because I know that in 2008, after the recession, they started to cut all of these music programs in Miami.
Everything. They don't even have, like, recess. And you know, I'm not even
You know how many
joking
schools
about
I've
it.
gone to where they have told me, we can't keep kids here because all we have is PE. But if we had more kids, we'd be able to give them music, but we can't do that, right? Because we don't have enough kids. So that catch-22.
Wow.
So Karen Fried and Jeffrey Miller are like, all right, great. Well, you want to do music education? Well, we have a school for you, Young Men's Preparatory Academy. And it's this leadership school, public school, Title I outside of Wynwood. And I went there with dreams of teaching these students classical guitar, because we started with a guitar club after school, 8 students. And I just remember after 2 classes, like, reality hit. And I was just like, okay, I need to change my perspective and meet these kids where they're at, right? And I remember going in there, tail between my leg, going, all right, guys, like, you have to learn how.
This was after 2 classes?
This was after 2 classes.
To me, honestly, that sounds like a quick learner, because there's a lot of people
Yeah, they
who
would
don't
keep
shift
pushing.
gears, who just keep pushing and just kind of like, you will learn.
You will learn. Well, I went and I was like, you have to learn how to read music. Like, you have to learn the language if we're going to have a conversation. But I understand you don't want to read these books when the Saints go marching in and all these lame songs like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. So I'll write you music. And every time I would strum the guitar Spanish style, they would stop. Like, whoa, what is that? So I was like, look, I'll write songs like this for you. And if you learn how to read two strings, I'll teach you Holy Grail by Justin Timberlake and Jay-Z. So that's where we started. We'd meet them where they were at. And within 2 weeks, I had them in the palms of my hand, and they were practicing, and they were excited. And they looked at me with these big eyes like, Sammy, ready for Holy Grail? I was like, okay. Print all the lyrics, and I realized there's a curse word every other word. I'm changing them by hand, doing my thing. But went into the class, held my word, thought about changing the song, but didn't. And we did the song, and the kids started to practice more. And I remember we went to our first concert, and they were spinning on their heads and rapping and doing everything, and the parents in the audience are dancing. Everyone's excited. I was like, oh, I figured this out. Right? We can teach the kids how to read music, which is important so they can learn the language, but you can also meet them where they're at and teach them about music that they love.
Right.
Like,
things are relevant to them now that they actually, it motivates them.
And that's a big learning in being in education for so long. It's like, we're musicians, so we're wired differently. And you think that other students are wired that way, but they're not, right? So like meeting them where they're at and giving them music that they love will help them get there quicker, right? And whether they become a musician or not is not the goal. Like, you're giving them opportunity to learn differently. Everyone has a goal, which is to perform, to be on stage and to give that performance. But there's different instruments, there's different ways of getting there, there's different paces. But we're working together. It's a team sport.
Yeah.
And that's what life is like when you're in a business. Right?
100%.
Like, there is no like one way of getting somewhere, and there's different ways, and you have to be creative. But we have a goal at the end of the day. So that was the beginning of Young Musicians Unite. It was just 8 students at the Young Men's Preparatory Academy, and fell in love with the work and fell in love with just like so many students and their families. And I learned just as much as they learned from me and then the team. And as we started to grow, when I met Zach, we were getting ready for our 4th school expansion. It was a very small organization 8-9 years ago. And now we work with over 12,000 students across 75 schools.
Wow.
And we're going to expand, adding 4,000 kids this August.
And you guys are focused primarily in Miami-Dade County?
Miami-Dade. Like, we're the 3rd largest school district in America. And so many people want to leapfrog, and we keep getting opportunities. Hey, you can do Palm Beach, you can do West Palm Beach, you can do LA. And then we just keep saying no, because I want to fix a problem here in Miami. I want to be able to say we've done the in-school, the after-school, working with organizations. You know, we call it county-wide arts education infrastructure. And can we build a model that is here that is sustainable? Can we build a model, and not can, when we build a model that is sustainable, a model that we can scale, then we'll consider scaling at that point. But it needs to be every child, any child, in school, after school. We're in the 3rd largest school district, yet 255 schools are Title I. That means 60% or more free reduced lunch. So we have so many students that don't have the opportunities to just go and pay for a music class. I didn't have that opportunity growing up. And I was just lucky to have it free in the school system.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so how do you balance with everything, like you guys both have mentioned, like with so many other things being cut, how do you guys balance being able to keep growing and evolving that way?
I mean, I think when we first began, Sammy told the origin story, basically. It started with a $10,000 check at the end of the year, that these students had raised that money and wanted to pay it forward to other kids who didn't have the same level of opportunity. That kind of grassroots support has been a huge and super important part of Young Musicians Unite since day one. I don't think we've ever lost that. We just had a gala about a week ago now, where 900 people came out for a seated dinner and crazy performance of all of our students to support the work that we were doing. And so that grassroots component has always been there, is still there, incredibly strong. Those grassroots supporters were able to help us raise $1.8 million for the music education for next school year.
$1.8 million.
In one night.
That's impressive.
Yeah. But I'll say it really takes a village. So
Yeah.
it's over time that has grown quite a bit now to support from corporate sponsors to grant funding to working in direct partnership with Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Now we've inked a historic partnership between Young Musicians Unite, the broader work we do aggregating other nonprofits through an initiative called Arts Access Miami, and the school district. And it also comes with the support of public organizations, with municipalities, with the county, with the state, etc. And we've been very active to bring all of those different kind of entities together to support the next generation of Miamians, to support the students, to support folks that no matter what company you work for, what political body you work for, everybody can agree that we want to invest in our young people across the community, and that benefits everyone.
What inspired you to join YMU, like when you first started?
I'm the type of person who loves to share when I learn something new. So I described earlier I found the guitar in high school. Within 6 months of playing, I was teaching. Because not that I was that great of a guitar player, but I at least knew more than someone else would know on their first day. And I was so excited to share that information with somebody else, because I was just like, man, this is the coolest thing. I have to give this information to somebody else. I have to give this experience to somebody else. And so education's been a big part of what I've done always. And Sammy and I were both, a part of the music community here in Miami, which Miami is a big city, but within the different pockets or the different niches in Miami, it becomes a fairly tight-knit community. And so Miami has a big personality, but I don't think people realize how much of a small town it is. There's like literally 2 degrees of separation for literally anybody in Miami.
Yes.
And so Sammy and I would cross paths with each other all the time. He and I both had different educational initiatives we were working on, both had recording studios, both would go out and play live music. And it was actually a mutual friend of ours and board member of Young Musicians Unite, Paul Lair. And Paul ended up connecting us initially and basically saying, hey, I know both of you, but you don't really know each other. And so I'm here with the bird's eye view watching you guys just lead parallel paths for the past few years. And at some
doing
point,
the same thing. Why don't you guys?
could you please do this together? Like, this is ridiculous, guys. So he sat us down together, and I would say we haven't looked back since.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And then after you guys connected and started working together, when did you guys really? You already mentioned that you guys were, growing from, 1 school to 4. At what point did you decide this is a serious thing that I want to scale to the volume and level that you guys are doing now?
Well, the important part when I met Zach was I was offered a full ride from my master's to University of Miami on guitar, and I had to make a decision. And at that moment, something in my head said...
This was the midlife crisis. I mean, the quarter-life crisis
That's right.
part.
I was like 32, 33 years old.
After?
Graduated college, was building YMU at the same time, and I had the opportunity, and then I met Zach, and I turned it down because a voice in my head said, if you don't focus on this now, it's never going to happen, but there's an opportunity here and you should take it. So I transitioned to full-time, and I was able to work with Zach to transition to full-time. We got the Miami-Dade Culture Affairs YAM grant, which was very helpful to us to be able to take it up to that next level. And we were small. We were growing into our 4th or 5th school at the time. And I knew that there was an opportunity here. And the bet that I was trying to make with Zach was, I don't want to do this school by school thing. I want to do a whole community. What does that look like? So we were looking at Carroll City at the time, and we were going into our first school, Beacon College Prep. But the ambition was, how do we go into all 12 schools in Carroll City? And eventually, how do we do all of North Dade?
What caused that shift for you, though? Like, what made you think, to do that, to step back and take the broader system approach and look at it and creating something?
What happened was, the goal was, how do you get kids not to grow out of YMU? And you would see them graduate middle school and then go to high school. And then, well, I want to follow them to high school because the opportunity doesn't exist there anymore. Right. I want to make sure these kids have that opportunity. So that was the first thing, is realizing, we have to, if we have a middle school student, if we're going to continue to work with them, we have to then work with them in high school. And then we had some students that started getting really good at jazz, and I can only go so far and so on. So Zach started working with them, or we brought in John Cause. And YMU just kept responding to the needs of our students, and that's why we grew so quickly. It wasn't just like, oh, I have a great idea, let me go do this thing. It's like there's a kid in front of me, and he needs something, and I can't provide it for him.
You see him evolving and growing, and like, I know what he needs, I can't provide it, so...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that by saying, one thing that YMU has always done is been responsive to like the needs of the students. We have a bunch of different types of programs that we offer. Sammy and I we're not like native marching band musicians. I can promise you. I'm a jazz musician. He's a classical and rock musician.
If you're going to be in Carol City, you need to know the marching band.
We have some robust marching band programs. Like we have over 100-person marching band. I mean, big marching bands where like it brings me to tears to watch these students. It's incredible.
They're entertaining.
But that being said, it was, being responsive to what the students are interested in and what the students need and trying to meet them where they're at, just like Sammy started the origin story. And so we noticed that one of the things the students need is a greater level of consistency. Because let's say you're one of the blessed students who goes to a school for elementary and middle and high that offers music. Maybe you take, recorder and choir in second grade, and then you switch to the ukulele in fifth grade.
I remember recorders back in the 1900s. They used to make it. They still do that these days?
1950.
So we see maybe a student goes through that process, right? Maybe they get to middle school now. Maybe there's a band in middle school, so they go through their tryouts. They get told, hey, you're going to be great on trumpet. Here's your trumpet. But then, as sometimes happens, maybe that teacher retires the next year, and maybe a different teacher comes in. They have more of an orchestra focus, so you're told, here's your cello. And then you get to high school, and there they have a marching band program, so it's, hey, grab a bass drum. And so you're still in a blessed position where you've actually been to a school that has music the whole time, but it's not necessarily a consistent offering. So what we can do by working with whole communities is make sure that we grow with those students as they make their way through the feeder pattern so that they have that consistent experience and they can make progress year after year after year, which is so much more motivating than having to start over. So I think at every level of our program, we've tried to make sure we follow the students where they're going.
Yeah. There's two opportunities to piggyback on that. Like everything we've built, a lot of it comes from just my music education background and being lucky. In fifth grade, I was able to pick up the guitar and pick up the bass and be in a guitar class at an orchestra. And I got to middle school, and the guitar class got more advanced, and I was able to continue to be in an orchestra, which was really great. And I learned that you could play double bass in a jazz band. Great. Got to high school, was able to now learn classical guitar, so that guitar journey continued and got involved, and I could play rock and roll now, and I can continue to play orchestra, the double bass, and in jazz band, the double bass, and in concert band. So it was just really lucky that these pathways continued and they weren't disrupted, and it's what gave me opportunities to full rides for college. But the thing that allows us to scale so quickly is our three-phase model, which creates buy-in from the school system. So we went to Carol City Middle School, and so the supervisor of music from Miami-Dade said, go visit Carol City Middle School. So I'm thinking I'm going to see this amazing program, and I meet the principal, Derek Negron, who's an amazing man, and then he walks me to the music room. Like, I'm here to see the music room. I walk in the music room. It's an abandoned music room. I'm like, all right, someone's playing a prank on me over here. And then you look on the wall.
This is why you're here.
Yeah, that's
we
why
got
you're
nothing.
Here. Yeah, we have nothing. And you look on the walls, and it straight superiors with distinctions year over year, the highest honors you can get, and it just stops in 2008. What happened in 2008? Oh, well, we decided to do double math, English, and reading. Well, how did that go? Not well at all. We have 7 feeder elementaries, and we're getting 23 kids a year. Okay. So, and why can't you start your own music class? We can't afford it. The catch-22 I said earlier.
Yeah.
So we started off with 2 classes. We pay for everything. We buy all the instruments. We took all those students, and then we started marching them to all the elementary open houses. And he said, hi, I'm Principal Derek Negron. I'm the principal at Carol City Middle, and you can now be part of this program. So from that spring, because we started in spring, to that fall, they went from 23 to 78 students that went to that school because of the music program. So phase 2 happens. Phase 2 is the school pays in, It pays for a part-time teacher for 4 classes. We continue to pay for 2. And we focus on the whole infrastructure of the curriculum to ensuring that when an instrument breaks, you fill out a form and we drop one off. When you have a performance, you're focused on being on stage and talking to the parents. We do the marketing, we'll do the door entrance, we'll do the sound, we do everything for you. Teacher's job is very difficult as it is. They don't need to be the CEO of their classroom. So we take all of that off their plate, and we also train them and work with them with PD. And in phase 3, when a school gets enough recruitment and retention and numbers go high enough, they're able to pay for a full-time music teacher. And then we still stay. Our cost per student goes down dramatically, but we stay because when that music teacher leaves, not if, when, because we have a 3 to 5 year average now. When they leave, we're there to make sure
That's all 3 to 5 year average for teachers?
These days, it's
Wow.
pretty rough. It's pretty rough. So our bet a long time ago, Zach and I, were not, well, how do you create initiatives to figure out how to keep teachers longer? It's how do you create programs to train teachers so they can be trained more quickly to be able to have an effective impact on a child and not take 3 years to learn how to teach, right?
Right.
So we're able to then look at that full-time music teacher, and when they leave, we celebrate them just like when the kids are celebrated when they graduate, right? You're graduating, you're leaving, good luck, congrats. And then, but if it's a jazz program, we make sure that a jazz teacher is hired. If it's a drumline program, that a drumline teacher is hired.
So that way you don't have to switch, like you were saying.
Exactly.
Can you have that continuity?
What we find a lot of the time is that, you know, the school district and the school system is doing like a heroic job with the resources that they have.
Yeah.
And so when we come into these schools, we're met by students who want more, parents who want more, but also principals who want more, teachers who want to be able to do more,
people who actually care.
School administration who want to be able to provide more to these schools. And so, you know, when we can come along and kind of like put an arm around them and say like, okay, if you guys are going to invest in a full-time teacher for this school, that's amazing. How about we help to give guidance on how to keep this consistent over those different teachers that come in as we see attrition, so that we don't have a jazz program become a marching band program, go to an orchestra, but we actually have that consistency there. How can we provide additional professional development, training, etc.? So again, there's that level of consistency with the student experience. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm going to shift gears real quick here because I'm also just, as a small business owner, I'm curious. Well, first, what are some of the things from music, your music experience and knowledge that you have found useful or applied to the business side?
I'll answer one way. I'll let Zach answer another way. Being a father and also growing this monstrous program where there is no like how to do a book, I don't get to play music as much as I used to. And I've found a middle section where I'm a creative and I'm able to work with Zach on coming up with these crazy ideas. I'll be able to change the impact of students in their everyday lives and be able to get investments in those ideas and then be able to actually see them come to life.
So you're channeling your creativity to the business side.
To the business side. So like writing a song and creating music, but doing it in the real world and applying it to people's lives every single day. And that has worked for me and fulfilled that itch and where I needed to be able to continue to be a creative.
It's interesting. What for you, Zach?
I mean, there's a million ways that music has shaped who I am today. I feel like if you took it away, I don't know who I'd be at this point. But
as part of how it shaped you, how do you apply some of that to your business?
Yeah, if I think about maybe one of the most impactful ways when it comes to business, is that in music you have to be a bit of a chameleon, right? You have to. I'm a guitar player, so if I show up to a reggae gig, I'm going to play guitar differently than if I show up to a jazz gig. If I show up to a gig where there's 20 musicians on stage, I'm going to play guitar very differently than if I'm on a gig when there's 3 musicians on stage. And in the end, all I'm trying to think about that whole time is how do I serve the music best? How do I get myself out of the way? How do I play something that's going to enrich or enhance the experience for the audience, for all the other musicians on stage? Or sometimes that means not playing anything at all at that moment. And I think in business or in a team, it's the same. You have to be able to sit down in a podcast environment. You have to be able to sit down with a donor. You have to be able to sit down with a student and make a direct connection.
And so be able to communicate to all of them.
That's right. That's right. And sometimes put yourself aside enough to be able to understand who that person is in that particular moment and what they need to hear, so that so that you guys can speak the same language. And I think music has taught me that in a big way, not just through the act of doing that on stage, but then also music's a very social sport. I watch a lot of our students develop incredible social skills, come out of their shells, develop friendships, etc., because it's a team sport. You're in a room with a bunch of different people trying to make one beautiful sound together, trying to play one song together.
Usually.
Yeah. Trying. That's right.
That's true. And what surprised you about the business side of that you didn't expect?
Too much. I mean, I've said to Sammy so many times, I've closed the door to one of our offices and said, did you ever think when we started this that this is the individual situation we would be dealing with? Or I've said to him, when I went to school for jazz guitar performance, I did not think this is the conversation I'd be having later today. I will say how much of a people game business is surprised me a bit. I've always been a little more analytical, a little more linear, a little more fact-based and driven.
Data-driven.
Yes, data-driven, exactly. And humans are messy. They are not. They are not linear. They are not clean. And there's this phrase that what is it? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with the team. And when you think of that, it means that the team becomes one of the most important things along the journey, because those are the folks that are enabling the mission to carry forward. And so all business becomes a people business in the end.
Go over for you, sir.
Whenever you ask the question.
What surprised you about business that you just really didn't expect? Because everyone's like, oh, I'm going to step into this, and then there's something that's completely out of left field, like I did not expect.
I'm going to answer it differently at first, and then, but I just remember being a kid and always thinking that adults knew everything and they had to figure it out, right? They had to figure it out.
I had the same problem.
Right?
Yeah.
And then as I started to get older, I realized that in this field of music and arts education, that there's so many artists, but there's not enough people that are actually caring about the artists and caring about the children and transforming the way that education is being taught, because things are changing, right? And at one point, I just thought to myself, like, if I don't stand up and do this, who is going to do this, right? There's a lot of us in this field, but we push boundaries. When we see rules, we ask why. When we see red tape, we ask why. Like, is this the best thing for us? I think, like, I'm a glass half full kind of person. I see opportunity in everything, and I pivot very quickly. So the hardest part, I think the hardest part is people, right? Because people all think differently and work differently, and some are creative, some are tactical, and the way that you speak to people is the biggest pain point. Because different people, whether you're talking to a principal, you need to talk about recruitment and retention. You can't talk about how great a music program is. They don't want to hear that. They have enough problems in their lives. So if you talk about how great a music program is, they just hear that you're bringing more problems into their life, right? So, and when you have a team and you're working with them, I'm a very creative person, but I also like work really well. I've done things with my hands, and always my job changes all the time. Zach's job changes all the time. And as you grow a business and as you scale a business, now will be $9.1 million this fall in arts education, music education. My job is not the same that it was 12 months ago. And my job will not be the same in 6 months from now. There's things I have to let go of, and there's things I have to learn how to communicate better and more quickly. I am the best and worst communicator at the same time because I'm a visionary, right? And I learned that a few months ago the hard way, and I've been like keeping that with me. So there's life lessons that you learn. There's great books that you read, like From Good to Great, which is right behind you. But it is a people business, and the better that you can understand the people around you and the psychology behind the people around you, then you can do the thing that you want to do, which is arts education at scale. Like, that is the goal. It's every child, any child should have access in the city of Miami, right? This really large city. So for me, it's how do we just get better at creating really great big ideas, and how do you get more people to get on board cross-sector, and then how do you actually drive to create a solution to the big problem that we have that hasn't been solved anywhere in this country.
I can't argue with that, and I think that like you both touched on people as some of those key components as to that makes or breaks things, and then like when you mentioned growing up and thinking that adults have it know what they're doing, and in the end, like when you're here, you just like everyone's just figuring it out, and everyone's just creating, and I think that is part of really just not just in the work in the business and creative side, but it's really part of just being a good citizen. And I commend you both for really just stepping in and just kind of owning this space. And I'm just curious, like this last question for you both, like what's next? Like where do you see this going?
I want to make sure that one day when I'm old and I walk away from this space, that I did everything possible to make sure that everything we built didn't go away. I want to make sure that every child, any child, has access to an arts education in school, after school, mentorships, internships, performing on stage, all of it. So right now, one of the goals is, yes, every Title I school. But the goal is $50 million in sustainable revenue. So that way, when we're not here anymore, this continues.
Yeah.
And we build a model that can be looked upon across the country as that's how you do it. That's how you create an ecosystem for arts education in the country. So for me, success looks like me one day when I retire or walk away, I can be like a David Lawrence and say, like, we did that.
Yeah.
Like David Lawrence, right, created the Children's Trust, and it continues to grow. VPK for every child, and you see that. And I think that's a big, big goal, is how do you create something sustainable so it doesn't rely on one person, 2 people, 3 people, 5 people. When you pull a person out, it falls apart.
Yeah. Or for you?
I have very little to add to that. That's great. I'll just say that
It's because you're a good team player.
what YMU does is fill in the gaps. And so what's next is continuing to fill in those gaps. And so we're going to be working with every single partner that we can, whether it's the school district, whether it's folks in public office, whether it's the individual donor who wants to support a program. And when Sammy says, $50 million a year, that's a huge pie in the sky goal for us. But if we look at, the costs of other programs throughout county, state, country, etc., I think that that's something incredibly achievable, and we know how high the ROI is.
Yeah.
And so I think part of what's next for us is just sharing that with as many people as we can and aggregating as many people as we can to be this tidal wave of support that pushes for our young students in our community and for their success.
I wholeheartedly agree, and please consider me a resource if some things I can do to help you both and achieve what you're trying to do. I totally agree that with the marker that you're setting is doable. It's that $50 million, like there's a couple billionaires who just bought one home for half that price, and so, and for the impact that you guys are having, I totally on board to see how we can help and make that happen. So I thank you both for coming on the show and joining me in this conversation. I actually learned a lot, and I appreciated the conversation. And what else do I have to do right now? Well, thank yous. Thank yous to you both. Thanks you for those. Where do people find out about YMU? Where can people look up?
So you can check us out at YMU.org. You can view a lot of information about our programs, about some upcoming events, and about ways that you can support. And we're at all the different social media under Young Musicians Unite.
And if you have any other upcoming events and things that people might need to know about, they can find out.
They can find that out at YMU.org. They can check out our upcoming events. We have a really robust event calendar that's going to be released soon for the fall. And Irvance, thank you for a great conversation.
No, most definitely. I'll have to check it out and see if I can catch some of your shows.
Yes.
We'll see you there.
Thank yous. Well, thank you to the Beacon Council Foundation, Wells Fargo. We got to thank people who pay for things. They don't pay me, but they pay the Beacon Council. Miami-Dade County, Mayor Daniel Levine Cava, she's the one that started the Strive 305 initiative. And Miami-Dade, no, I always get the name wrong. Miami Community Newspapers, our hosts who provide us the studio spaces, and my all-time favorite producer, host, Zoni. Thanks for all you do. He does all the hard work. I just talk, and he does all the cameras and flips around. So, if you're watching on YouTube, check us out, or if you're listening on Sirius XM, you can check out more of our podcasts wherever you hear them. And that's our show for today.